The Galactic Tribunal sat in rigid silence, their many-eyed faces glowing with the flicker of 1,000 historical records. The screen in front of them buzzed, grainy with interference, before stabilizing on the face of a human, scarred, grinning, unblinking. He leaned into the camera like he knew they were watching. "My name is General Victor Rain," he said, voice laced with something between mischief and menace. "And if you're watching this, well, you're already too late." The screen cut to black. A single line of alien script followed. Asterisk, he was raised by the one your ancestors feared to name the asterisk. 3 weeks earlier, in the forgotten stretches of Earth's Siberian wilderness, a patrol from the Galactic Empire made contact with what they believed to be a primitive anomaly. A wooden hut on chicken legs marched through the snow. No heat signature, no propulsion system, just creaking timber and talons the size of hover tanks. When they approached, the hut turned, squatted, and out stepped a woman wrapped in black and bone. Baba Yaga. To the humans, she was a folk tale, a relic of childhood warnings and half-whispered bedtime threats. But to the Empire, she was an interdimensional wildcard, the Chrono Witch, a being not bound by natural law or reason. For centuries, they'd avoided Earth not because it was weak, but because it was unpredictable, because Baba Yaga still walked its soil, and she had raised a child. Victor Rain was 5 when the meteor storms wiped out the last of the major Earth cities. Satellites fell like fireflies, empires dissolved overnight, and orbit became a scrapyard of dreams. The rich fled. The powerful buried themselves underground. Victor's parents? Gone in the first pulse wave. His memories of them were fragments, a mother's lullaby, a father's broken watch. Baba Yaga found him in the ruins of an old Soviet outpost, half-frozen, and clutching a cassette player playing Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive on loop. She took him in, not out of kindness, but out of cosmic boredom. She was ageless, terrifying, and lonely. He was stubborn, loud, and curious. He never called her mother. She never called him son. But she taught him things no child should know: how to speak to the dead, how to trap ghosts in mirrors, how to confuse a war drone by reciting poetry backward. She also taught him how to box, reload 9mm clips blindfolded, and field strip a plasma rifle repurposed from a stove. By the time Victor was 10, he had broken into a galactic comm station and uploaded Rick Astley's asterisk Never Gonna Give You Up asterisk into their primary alert system. The Empire classified it as a viral cyber attack of unknown origin. By 12, he had bested a Zanian beast lord in hand-to-hand combat, armed only with a folding chair and a bottle of expired ketchup. He grew up on a diet of beet stew, fairy tales, and 1980s American action films recorded on tapes warped from dimensional radiation. Baba Yaga had found the tapes in a crashed entertainment satellite and insisted they held deep human truths. Victor believed her. He watched asterisk predator asterisk like scripture, studied asterisk die hard asterisk like a field manual. He considered asterisk Rocky IV asterisk a historical documentary. He did not understand sarcasm until he was 16, and by then it was too late to filter it from his personality. To the Empire, Earth was backwater. To Victor, it was a forge. The moment the Empire returned to Earth's orbit, they came not with guns but contracts, annexation without bloodshed. A junior envoy was dispatched, expecting to negotiate with fragile remnants of a primitive species. He found instead a man dressed in a sleeveless tactical vest, wielding a shotgun older than the Empire itself, and quoting asterisk lethal weapon star. The envoy's last transmission was static, followed by the unmistakable sound of a Walkman being rewound. In orbit, the Empire paused. Then they escalated. Their mistake. The conflict wasn't one of firepower. It was philosophy. The Empire prized order, structure, and technological superiority. Victor thrived on chaos, gut instinct, and the ability to weaponize the absurd. When the Empire deployed drones that could manipulate gravity fields, Victor dropped microwave from weather balloons, crashing the eye predictive algorithms. When they launched an orbital strike platform, he tricked their targeting systems with VHS interference, making them bomb their own supply fleets. They began calling him the walking curse. Galactic analysts argued whether he was a product of Earth's stubborn evolution or Baba Yaga's influence. Neither theory could account for his unpredictability, nor for the fact that every time they thought they cornered him, he'd disappear, leaving behind graffiti that read, Yippee-ki-yay. Victor never wanted a war, but he wasn't about to kneel. Not to beings who thought humans were just statistical anomalies. His tactics weren't madness, they were humanity distilled. He used what he had. He threw curveballs at a machine designed to process straight lines. He was a living contradiction, a student of both myth and machinery, raised on stories where monsters were outwitted, not overpowered. Baba Yaga never interfered directly, but when Victor walked into battle, her presence was with him, in the way shadows bent, in the fog that disoriented enemy troops, in the inexplicable panic that overtook even the most stoic alien commanders when they heard wooden creaks with no source. By the time the first major Imperial fleet fell to Earth's resistance, ambushed in a canyon rig with booby traps inspired by Asterisk Home Alone Asterisk, the Senate declared Earth a Tier 9 hazard world. Their maps were redrawn, not to mark territory lost, but to designate Earth as culturally volatile, engagement discouraged. That didn't stop them. Pride made them come back. Arrogance made them send more ships. Each time, Victor sent them back in pieces, or converted them into mobile disco stations playing Asterisk Eye the Tiger Asterisk in deep space. He wasn't building an army. He was building a legend. Back at the tribunal, the silence grew thicker. The war was still raging, but Earth hadn't just survived. It had retaliated, not through sheer numbers or superior tech, but by weaponizing confusion, unpredictability, and the type of chaotic resilience that the Empire couldn't compute. The tribunal chancellor shifted nervously. And the hut? Another voice, older, rasped. Still walking. Reports say it's been seen on Europa. No propulsion system. No heat signature. Just walking. And the woman? She hasn't aged. She watches old Earth films. Laughs at them. We think she's preparing him for something. The screen flickered again. This time it showed Victor sitting in a trench, cleaning his shotgun with one hand and eating canned beans with the other. Behind him, the sky was on fire, an Imperial dreadnought burning as it fell. He looked up at the camera. "You wanted Earth," he said, smiling like a man who knew something the universe didn't. "You should have knocked first." He reached into his vest and pulled out the Walkman. "Press play." Kenny Loggins' Asterisk Danger Zone Asterisk started blasting. Then the screen went dark. Static hummed like a funeral dirge. In the silence, the tribunal finally understood. They hadn't provoked a primitive species. They had awakened something far older, far stranger. Not just Baba Yaga's child. Humanity's worst-case scenario. The Galactic Empire had never lost a diplomatic summit. Negotiation was a preferred method of conquest, cloaked in gold-trimmed treaties and the illusion of choice. Their ships were immaculate, their envoys elegant and well-modulated, bred from birth to speak across cultures with grace and surgical precision. They did not expect Earth to answer with a man wearing aviator shades, combat boots duct taped to the ankle, and a smile that felt like a lit match hovering above a fuel line. General Victor Rain didn't wait for introductions. He kicked the ornate chair out of his path, stepped over the ceremonial rug laid for interstellar guests, and flopped down into the Empire's diplomatic circle like he'd just arrived at a dive bar 2 drinks too late. Across from him sat Ambassador Keltar of the Third Synthesis. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent runes, and her voice operated on 3 harmonic frequencies designed to calm mammals, reptiles, and carbon-based intelligences. Victor immediately poured himself a drink from their ceremonial water jug, sniffed it, grimaced, and poured bourbon into it instead. The Empire called it cultural insensitivity. He called it survival instinct. Keltar began the proceedings with practiced serenity, citing ancient treaties, galactic law, and imperial precedents that demanded Earth's compliance. She outlined the demands in a soothing tone. Earth would relinquish autonomy, dismantle its defense grid, and allow for immediate integration into the imperial network. In return, they would receive advanced medicine, energy systems, and cultural assimilation support. Victor sipped, listening without blinking, and when she finally asked for his response, he leaned forward and grinned. "We'll take the medicine," he said. "But the rest? You can cram it in a black hole." Confusion rippled across the envoys' faces. The translator stalled on the phrase, then offered an interpretation Keltar refused to read aloud. He didn't come alone. Beside him stood Lieutenant Tex Sanders, a pilot with a handlebar mustache and a drawer thick enough to fry bacon in. Tex carried a duffel bag of strange objects the Empire scanners couldn't classify, somewhere between weapons, toys, and relics of a culture no algorithm could decode. Across from them, the Empire's finest negotiators whispered nervously as Victor passed around a box labeled Asterisk Pop-Tarts, frosted Asterisk, offering one with disarming casualness. Keltar refused the offering. Tex shrugged and ate too. The Empire tried to reset the tone. They displayed holo images of their previous successful integrations, smiling aliens, clean cities, hyperloop transport links. They showed projections of Earth-improved GDP, health outcomes, and projected population stability. Victor watched all of it with the same expression he wore while watching Baba Yaga boil soup, with bones labeled asterisk "Do not question star." When it was their tone, Tex turned on a battered projector. The first slide was a grainy picture of a bald eagle drop-kicking an alien robot into a canyon. The next slide was a child holding a sign reading asterisk freedom on Napalm Star. The final image was Victor as a teenager, punching an interstellar comms tower with a flaming baseball bat. Keltar asked if it was satire. Tex replied, "We call it the curriculum." The tension finally snapped when a secondary diplomat, a young, untested voice clone named Gel, attempted to confiscate Victor's Walkman, citing cross-frequency interference with the station's comms array. No one remembered who warned him not to. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way Victor's smile faded. But the moment his fingers touched the device, time warped around them. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't technology. It was a totem, sacred, symbolic, a tether to Victor's identity. Taking it was not theft. It was provocation. Victor stood slowly. The room adjusted, subtly pulling back. A pressure settled on the atmosphere like something ancient had stirred. His voice dropped an octave, no longer playful. "That doesn't belong to you," he said. Gel scoffed and pocketed the device. What followed wasn't violence in the conventional sense. No fists, no plasma, no spilled blood. Just Victor reaching behind his back and pulling out a boombox older than the Empire itself. He slapped a cassette in, hit play, and asterisk "Welcome to the Jungle" asterisk roared through the hole like a feral hymn. Lights flickered. Translation devices glitched. One diplomat collapsed, screaming about ancient Earth aggression frequencies. Keltar issued an immediate alert to her command cruiser, but before they could extract her, the floor shook. Not from the Empire. From orbit, Baba Yaga's hut, somehow, impossibly, had arrived. No launch signature. No atmospheric breach. 1 second. Space was empty. The next, a building with giant talon legs stood atop the Empire's observation deck, creaking and swaying like it had always been there. Its presence defied gravity, logic, and sanity. The Empire's soldiers froze. Their weapons refused to lock on. AI units reported corrupted moral subroutines and inexplicable maternal warnings. One drone vomited data and shut down. A door opened. The hut crouched. Victor looked back at the stunned assembly. "This is what you brought on yourselves." He stepped inside the hut. No explosion followed. No cataclysmic blast. Just silence. Then a quiet wind as the hut vanished, leaving only a faint smell of beetroot and ozone. The Empire declared Earth hostile within the hour. Over the following weeks, diplomatic channels degenerated into garbled nonsense. Every attempt to send messages to Earth was intercepted and returned with bizarre parodies of imperial orders. One included a sketch of the Emperor wearing a tutu and juggling pineapples, signed asterisk "Love, Humanity Star." High Command believed it was a glitch. The technicians resigned en masse after being forced to listen to "Take On Me" played backward, which somehow exposed them to psychic echoes of Baba Yaga humming. A reconnaissance fleet was dispatched. Contact was lost minutes after arrival. The final message was corrupted except for a single sentence scrawled across the data feed in human blood. Asterisk "Do not touch the Walkman." Asterisk. Word spread. Across the Empire, the myth of the human general grew like fungus in shadows. Reports of his exploits varied wildly. Some claimed he rode into battle on a flaming goat. Others said he could paralyze commanders with single glare. But all agreed on 2 facts. He answered to no flag, and his foster mother could boil stars. On Oath, Victor didn't celebrate. He trained. Between skirmishes, he wrote notes in a language only he and Baba Yaga understood. Some nights he listened to his Walkman under starlight and replayed old Earth songs like they were ancient prayers. Other nights, the hut whispered to him through walls, murmuring prophesies in 3 voices, Baba, the dead, and something older. Tex remained at his side, drinking moonshine filtered through a busted air filter and drawing diagrams labeled *Plan B*, *Plan C*, and *Plan Why the Hell Not Star. Their forces were few, but Earth had changed. The ground remembered pain. The air buzzed with myth. They didn't need an army. They had unpredictability, rage, and a general who thought diplomacy ended where common sense failed. And the Empire had touched the Walkman. As weeks passed, probes stopped returning. Drones encountered illogical architecture, stairways that ended in sky, doors that led to forest floors, shadows that attacked code. The Empire tried to isolate the threat, believing Baba Yaga a local anomaly. Then she appeared in their dreams. Officers awoke screaming, claiming she'd spoken to them through static, warning them to clean their teeth before death. The Senate proposed quarantine protocols, but one sector had already gone dark. Victor had launched no missiles, no battleships, just old satellites reproposed to emit Earth's most psychologically confusing broadcasts, reruns of infomercials, children programming layered with Morse code threats, and looping footage of Nicolas Cage movies stitched together with occult symbols. It wasn't war. It was an unraveling. Baba Yaga's child had declared that if Earth couldn't have peace, then the galaxy wouldn't have understanding. And so, confusion became the weapon, absurdity, the shield. Every line the Empire drew, Victor blurred. Every attack they made, he redirected. And still, they didn't know his plan. Because his plan was never conquest. It was reminder. Humanity had survived ice ages, empires, internets, and itself. Now it had survived the galaxy. The price of ignoring Earth was irrelevance. The price of mocking it, war. But the price of underestimating Victorine, that was extinction, with a mixtape. In orbit, a new fleet prepared for retaliation. Commanders vowed to crush the madness. They would arrive in 2 days. And Victor was already waiting. Walkman charged. Boombox repaired. The hut creaking with anticipation. Somewhere in the sky, the old stars shifted. And someone, somewhere, muttered, "We never should have touched the damn Walkman." The Third Imperial Fleet entered Earth's atmosphere with full confidence, their formation a flawless helix of disciplined precision. These weren't diplomats or analysts. This time the Empire sent in forces. Battle-tested commanders, titanium-armored shock troops, and AI-controlled dreadnoughts with annihilation protocols encoded into their core logic. Their strategy was brute simplicity: overwhelm, subdue, extract. They believed the prior failures were due to bureaucratic softness, not fundamental miscalculations. But their greatest flaw remained the same. They still didn't understand what they were fighting. General Victorine watched them descend from the roof of a derelict stadium converted into a command outpost. He chewed jerky with one hand and marked enemy trajectories with the other. A cigarette burned between his fingers, ignored as ash danced in the wind. He didn't look worried. He never did. Concern was a luxury, and he'd been raised on scarcity. His radio buzzed, relaying fragmented reports of troop deployments and aerial movements. He listened quietly as others panicked. He only spoke when someone mentioned a new Imperial flagship transmitting mass pacification frequencies. He spat on the ground, crushed a cigarette under his heel, and said, "Start the playlist." Across Earth's makeshift defenses, the sound of distorted guitars and retro synthesizers exploded through jury-rigged speakers. From remote jungles to frozen ruins, every human forward unit blared aggressive 80s rock, drowning out the Empire's calm neural dampeners. AI interfaces built to interpret logic short-circuited, trying to decipher lyrics like "pour some sugar on me and don't stop believing that." The harmonics, carefully tuned for earthling nostalgia, weren't meant to confuse. They were meant to make humans dangerous. The moment the first notes dropped, morale surged. Humans didn't just hear the music. They remembered who they were before the galaxy tried to define them. The Empire unleashed a coordinated offensive across 3 continents, confident in their superiority. Their technology warped gravity, folded space, and nullified kinetic attacks. But it couldn't counter things no algorithm could predict, like a trap made from salvaged washing machines loaded with steel ball bearings, rigged to fire in every direction when triggered by a drone sonar ping. Or a squad of Earth engineers weaponizing old carnival rides as centrifugal accelerators launching shrapnel at supersonic speeds. One by one, precision deployments met dirty improvisation. One by one, efficiency collapsed under madness. Lieutenant Tex Sanders coordinated air raids and a crop duster reinforced with scrap metal and prayer. He'd strapped flamethrowers to the wings, painted racing stripes on the propeller, and named it the Yeehaw Express. Enemy AI classified him as a localized threat until he dropped 3 quantum mines disguised as barbecue grills onto their command post. When the smoke cleared, the surviving Imperial officer reported an encounter with a screaming lunatic yelling about freedom and steak sauce. On the ground, Victor led the assault himself, not with flair but brutal precision. He wielded an ancient shotgun enhanced with anti-grave recoil dampeners and carried a machete wrapped in duct tape and folklore. His armor was mismatched, scavenged from various battlefield scraps, and painted with symbols he claimed Baba Yaga had etched into his dreams. To his enemies, he moved like a storm wrapped in myth. To his allies, he was proof that Earth refused to die. The Imperial commanders adapted. They deployed their most advanced troops, psionic regulators bred in zero-G and trained to suppress all emotional resistance. On their first deployment, one was met by a group of human teenagers dancing to a boombox playing Thriller. The regulator faltered. The rhythm disrupted his control. One of the kids threw a soda can that detonated on impact, filled with electromagnetic glitter. The Empire called for reinforcements. The teenagers called it a Tuesday. Behind every human ambush was the echo of Victor's training. He didn't teach doctrine or theory. He taught chaos. He taught how to turn every object into a potential weapon, and every mistake into an opportunity. His soldiers didn't fear death. They feared letting him down. Not out of loyalty, but because his disappointment felt worse than enemy fire. He rarely praised, never congratulated, but when he did, it carried the weight of legacy. Baba Yaga's presence remained unseen but undeniable. Reports filtered in from across the globe. Enemy ships stranded in impossible fogs. Scouts disappearing without trace. Sudden infestations of blackbird disrupting communication towers. Some swore they saw a silhouette atop burning hills, hunched and laughing, her voice breaking radio silence with phrases like "not ready for stew time," and "your empire tastes bland." The Empire's high command reeled. Their protocols fractured. Reports came in faster than they could be suppressed. Commanders falling into comas after hearing Earth music. Units abandoning formation after encountering holographic projections of a dancing skeleton labeled Cousin Yaga, and dreadnought crews driven mad by inexplicable human humor broadcast into their systems. Their database flagged Earth as a Level 10 cultural hazard, an unprecedented classification. Yet retreat was not an option. The Emperor had declared Earth a stain on their reputation, a cancer to be excised. Honor demanded victory, even if reason advised otherwise. With their orbital footholds crumbling, the Empire gambled on total annihilation. They activated the Ether Lance, a weaponized satellite capable of piercing planetary cores. One beam, one clean shot, and Earth would fracture. It had never failed. Victor knew it was coming. His eyes never left the sky. He didn't call for a counterstrike. He didn't order a retreat. Instead, he entered the hut. It had appeared again on the outskirts of an abandoned city, its legs resting, its door ajar. Soldiers gave it space. They always did. Inside, it smelled like stew and ozone, like time itself took naps in the corners. Baba Yaga was invisible, but she never had to be. The hut listened. The walls pulsed with memory. Victor whispered, "Not orders, not pleas, just understanding." A man raised not by war, but by the thing war feared, a boy who survived myths and came out carrying one. The hut moved. The Ether Lance never fired. It didn't malfunction. It didn't face a counterattack. It vanished. Gone. Entirely. Telemetry showed it was ejected into deep space, spinning endlessly with a handwritten note scrawled across the hull in permanent marker. Asterisk nice try. Nerds.asterisk. Earth's defenders cheered. But Victor didn't. He knew this wasn't a victory. It was a statement, a warning, one the Empire was too arrogant to heed. The third fleet retreated in chaos. Their formations crumbled, their record corrupted, their faith in dominance shattered. Their retreat wasn't tactical, it was primal. Back at the ruins of the stadium, Victor sat alone on the roof again. His hands were cut, his knuckles raw. He rewound his Walkman and listened. It was a mixtape. Tracks Barber Yaga had helped him collect. Songs from a world that no longer existed but lived on through static and melody. He closed his eyes and let it play. He wasn't thinking about war. He was thinking about what came next. Tex climbed up and dropped beside him, offering a flask. "They'll be back," Tex muttered. "They have to," Victor replied. "It's not in their nature to leave a question unanswered." Tex swigged, passed the flask again. "What's the question?" Victor didn't answer. The sky above flickered with distant movement, not stars but shadows. He stared, eyes narrowing. Then he finally spoke, low and cold. "Why does a species with sticks and songs keep making gods bleed?" They sat in silence as the clouds rolled in, not thunderclouds, but something heavier. Somewhere, deep in space, the Empire reeled from humiliation. And somewhere in their depths, a new plan was forming, one that would no longer aim to subdue Earth, but to erase it. Victor stood, dusted himself off, and slung the shotgun across his shoulder. "Let them come." He didn't smile. He didn't need to. The sky was already answering for him. The fourth and final Imperial invasion arrived not as a fleet, but as an event. The sky split open like a wound. Time itself shuddered in orbit. They didn't just send ships this time. They tore open a hole in the laws of physics and poured in everything they had. The fleet was no longer military. It was theological. Vast constructs built from harvested stars, ships powered by crystallized minds of extinct philosophers, machines that pulsed with the despair of conquered civilizations. This wasn't war. This was retribution. It was the Empire's declaration that Victor Reign and his world were no longer a problem to solve, but an anomaly to erase. The new Supreme Commander, Gyrek the Final, issued no warning. He broadcast a singular phrase across every frequency. Asterisk we end is now to asterisk. His voice fractured comms, bent atmospheric pressure, and caused birds to fall from the sky. The sentence wasn't a threat. It was policy. Earth had become the Empire's white whale, illogical, unpredictable, and infuriatingly undefeated. Gyrek didn't arrive to conquer. He arrived to make an example. Victor Reign stood alone in the desert as the sky burned overhead. The horizon bloomed with incoming vessels, their shadows blotting out constellations. He didn't flinch. The hut stood behind him, crouched low, silent, its chicken legs digging deep into the dust. Tex watched from a ridge nearby, his expression tight, flask untouched. They both knew this was the endgame, not of Earth's resistance, but of the illusion that the Empire could be reasoned with. There would be no survivors if Gyrek succeeded. No terms. No war crimes, just omission, as if humanity had never happened. All across Earth, the call went out, not for retreat, not for shelter, but for noise. Speakers hidden in tunnels, beneath ruins, in mountain bunkers, and deep-sea wrecks began to blare Earth's oldest defense, sound. From Beethoven's Ninth to Black Sabbath. From Elvis to N.W/A entire symphonies of defiance. Gyrek ordered it silenced. He issued sonic dampeners. They failed. His advisors warned of cultural backflow contamination. His AI assistants malfunctioned trying to interpret the meaning behind a distorted loop of Freddie Mercury yelling, "Don't stop me now." Victor advanced alone toward the first landing vessel. He didn't bring a weapon, just a Walkman. The same cracked, battle-worn piece of plastic they had tried to confiscate months ago. He pressed play. The tape clicked. The beat dropped. In the air tonight echoed across the dunes. Somewhere behind him, the hut groaned, shifting slightly as if awakening. The landing party emerged, clad in armor that bent light, their faces hidden behind the motionless plates. Gyrek stood at their center, taller than any man, surrounded by orbs that shimmered with harvested fear from dead planets. He studied Victor with cold fascination, like a man analyzing the last fly in a sealed jar. "You are not special," Gyrek said. "You are not strong. You are not wise. You are statistically impossible, and that is unacceptable." Victor let the music play. The beat pulsed louder. His heart matched it. He felt Baba Yaga in his bones, not as a presence but as a weight, the weight of having been raised by something that could never be categorized. She hadn't taught him to fight. She had taught him to endure, to weaponize discomfort, to become the question no empire wanted to ask. Gyrek raised one hand. A sphere of implosive entropy formed in the air. It hummed with the power to collapse every molecule of Victor's body into vapor. But he didn't fire. He hesitated. Because in Victor's eyes, there was no fear, just history, and something deeper. Not hate, not anger, something Gyrek couldn't name, because it had no translation in his language. It was the look of a species that had run out of patience. The hut moved. It didn't march or leap. It unfolded. It stretched. Its legs extended into towers. Its roof split into wings. Doors opened, not just one, but dozens, each leading to someplace that shouldn't exist. The Empire's quantum senses failed to comprehend what it was seeing. To them, it wasn't a structure. It was a breach, a myth that had decided to walk. Figures stepped out of the doors. Not soldiers. Echoes. Reflections. The manifestations of every earthling lost to the Empire's long shadow. Children with sticks. Old men with rifles. Mothers with tire irons. Laughing mechanics. Crying artists, dead fighters, living memories. All of them stepped forward, armed with whatever they died holding. Gyrek's army opened fire. The bullets passed through them, and yet his troops began to fall. Not killed, forgotten, names wiped from imperial databases. Biometric tags erased, faces unrecorded. Gyrek watched as his army shrank without violence. His history imploded by humanity's ability to remember what empires tried to forget. Victor walked through the chaos unhurried. He approached Gyrek as everything crumbled. Not just battle. Not just the invasion. The Empire's perception of reality itself. Its belief in order. In superiority. In dominion. Gyrek tried to speak again, but no words came. He realized his language was gone. Not translated. Removed. The hut had taken it. Baba Yaga had eaten it like bone marrow. And in that silence, Victor finally spoke. You don't get to define us. He pressed a button on the Walkman. A new song played. Not angry. Not loud. Soft. Defiant. Johnny Cash's voice drifted through the wreckage like smoke from a cigarette stubbed out on the chest of a god. Gyrek collapsed. Not from impact. From comprehension. His mind, built to dissect logic and command obedience, finally understood it had faced something it was never designed to fight. Humanity didn't win because it was stronger. It won because it couldn't be assimilated. The Empire fled, not in ships, in disgrace. Whatever lingered was no longer a fleet, just echoes. The names of the great commanders were forgotten, their records corrupted. Earth became a black zone on imperial maps, marked only by a warning, do not engage. Mythological hostile. Victor stood in the aftermath. Not victorious, just intact. That was enough. The hut shrank behind him, its legs folding, its walls muttering in Old Slavic. Baba Yaga didn't appear. She didn't need to. Her job was done. Her son had done what no army could. Not by strength, by contradiction. Tex reappeared hours later, blooded but grinning, dragging a barrel of fuel and a half-functional drone that played disco whenever it hiccuped. They sat under the stars that night, watching as pieces of the Empire's last hope burned in the sky like confused fireworks. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Eventually, Tex raised his flask. You ever gonna tell me what she taught you that made you this dangerous? Victor leaned back, lit a cigarette, and blew a slow, curling ring of smoke into the air. She didn't teach me to fight, he said. She taught me how to be unsolvable. They watched the fire die down. Somewhere far off, the remnants of humanity were dancing, not because the war was over, but because they could, because freedom didn't need permission. It needed rhythm, the kind you found in cracked cassette tapes and songs sung out of tune. Above them, the stars rue-lined, not perfectly, just enough to notice. And far beyond that, in places where old gods slept and new machines calculated futures, one truth began to circulate like a virus in code. Earth didn't lose, and Victor Rain was not just a general of a planet. He was the last lesson of a species a galaxy would never fully understand.